Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. Joining us here for episode 126. I'm Tom, joined as always by Jim. Jim, great to be with you. How are you?
I am good. As I said, about a month ago, it is Victory Friday again for me. My Bears won on Thursday night in a barn burner instant classic. I can't even say that.
The monthly occurrence,
Right.
which is not good, but it's good for your future draft pick.
It is because we have Carolina's. I saw Bears fans last night on Facebook who were upset that we won because it hurts our draft standing. And I'm like, but we have their pick, and their pick was already higher than ours. So if you're just looking at draft, that was what you wanted to have happen. You wanted the Bears to win that game, because if the Panthers win that game, then they get closer, but the wrong direction. So no, that was okay. And let's be honest, if we look at the Bears schedule, not going to happen a lot the rest of the year. That might have been the last one. I don't know. We'll see. And just interesting to me that, the Bears have 3 wins on the season and 2 of them are on Thursday Night Football. Maybe we just move all our games to Thursday. We could be a juggernaut. I don't know.
I saw a mock draft yesterday, had the Bears taking Drake May out of North Carolina next year.
Now, okay, this is going to be one of those Ohio State quarterbacks never do good in the NFL kinds of comments that don't make a lot of sense. And CJ Stroud is certainly breaking that mold this year. And I think Justin Fields has shown enough promise to say, okay, stop that narrative. And I know as a Michigan fan, that's probably hard for you to even, wrap your head around. But the Bears took a North Carolina quarterback early a number of years back here, and it did not work. So it scares me with Drake May. But I do think Drake May has shown more and had more opportunity to show things than Trubisky ever did. So
yeah, so the mock I saw yesterday, which I did not see any of the details of the mock, I just saw that there were 6 quarterbacks taken in the top 20, which is crazy.
They're saying it's a deep quarterback draft. So I mean, if the Bears are gonna move on from Justin Fields, I'm not yet convinced they should, but if they are, this is the year to do it. I mean, that's for sure. So, well, anyways, welcome to the NFL podcast here at Two Spot Monkeys Live.
Justin Fields, the Las Vegas Raiders quarterback? ?
I think that's certainly a place. I think Atlanta is another place that would make a lot of sense for him as well if he does get moved. Because although Atlanta, Arthur Smith might start Taylor Heineke anyways, because Arthur Smith doesn't believe in using your best players, apparently. I heard a stat yesterday. Okay, last fantasy thing for now.
Oh, Bijan Robinson. Anyone who has Bijan Robinson in any fantasy football league, you're like, what are you doing to me?
In the red zone this year, and then I promise we'll move on from fantasy football.
This is where we've turned into a fantasy football podcast.
I heard a stat yesterday that in the red zone, so when they're within the 20, for those that aren't, football aficionados, Tyler Algier has 26 touches in the red zone. Bijan Robinson has 12. You used your number 8 pick on Bijan Robinson. You've given him half the red zone touches of a nice running back, a kind of not journeyman, but a nice complimentary running back, but not somebody who came in with all of the hype of Bijan Robinson. So it either says you massively reached and wasted draft capital on somebody who isn't what you thought, if that's the case. I don't think it is. Or just terrible management of a team. So yeah, Justin Fields get traded to Atlanta and back up, Taylor Heineke, the way they run things. So who knows? Or they make him a running back. I don't know. So, anyways, so 4 minutes in, we will get to pro wrestling here on Two Spot Monkeys Live. But we had a head-to-head competition last week with WWE's Crown Jewel. And I had the stats, but is it 7-1, 6-2? Is that right, Tom?
That is right. That is correct. 7-1 in your favor.
It was 7-1 for me, 6-2 for you. The difference we had was Io Sky and Bianca Belair. Both of us were not very confident in our picks. I had Io, obviously. You had Bianca. I want a victory lap and say that I called the Kairi Sane return, but I have to backtrack that slightly and say I called it, though, as Kairi coming out to challenge Io, and that is not what happened. She came out as a friend and apparently a new alliance. Is damage control done? I think there's a lot of rumors that there's at least 1 or 2 more people to yet join Io and Kairi. I've seen rumblings of Asuka, which I guess if you're going with the stereotypical put, the Asian wrestlers together in a stable thing, could work. I don't know if I love it for that reason, maybe, but yeah. So interesting there, that I was right on one hand, but I was definitely wrong storyline on that. So so that was the difference on head to head. So that ties us up. Do you have the year stat, Tom? I think it's 55 and something.
55 and 22 for each of us. And I will pick first as we head into Crown or Full Gear. We just did Crown Jewel. Yeah, Full Gear next week. That's what we'll be doing next Friday when we record. And I will be picking first by way of the coming in just underneath you with the last pick 'em, and we're even as we head into the final 6 weeks of this with lots of events to go. So it's anyone's match.
Yeah, this is fun. I like when sometimes we kind of get to this point in November and there's maybe 3 or 4 only events left. And now there's I think 4 events left, if I remember right, 4 or 5 on the year, and it's like lead for somebody or something like that, where who knows, someone would really have to dig themselves out of a hole to get back into it, and we don't have that this year. We're tied up, coming down the home stretch here, so this will be fun, and it'll be interesting to listen to our strategies going back and forth. Who knows, maybe we get to that last event, we might have to submit our picks early or something so that we can't play the strategy of, well, you picked so-and-so, so now I'm going to pick them so you can't.
Well, and I'll say this, that last event is World's End, and I don't think that we'll have a chance to record and talk through that just based on the seasonal time of year. So all of that being said, yeah, well, let's, again, I certainly hope I have put this to rest before that.
Right, as do I.
Well, but we shall see what happens, right?
Absolutely. So always fun, good competition, good fun.
So just running down Crown Jewel, we won't go through all the results, but again, yeah, our difference head to head was you had Io Sky, Bianca Belair. We both also took a loss on John Cena, who lost to Solo Sikoa. And then I saw a tweet from John Cena, I think in the last 24 hours. It looks like he just had, I'm going to say shoulder or arm surgery. So he's going to be on the shelf. Not that he was going to be continuing, but he certainly did the, Cena memorial as he, got the crowd response and walked up the ramp last Saturday in Saudi Arabia. I know you didn't watch it. I just finished the show yesterday, watched over the course of 3 days. It was a fine show. Definitely Logan Paul is one of the reasons why I want to watch WWE right now. So the fact that they haven't said, all right, dude, we're just going to give you X million dollars. We need you full time, to convince him while he has all these other things going on to be a focal point surprises me. Again, nothing against any of the other talents. There's a lot of other guys I like as well, but I feel just Logan Paul is such a unique act. And even the way they presented him, they had his arrival into the venue on Saturday was more unique than any other superstar. So he drove in a big SUV ATV type vehicle from the desert. Of course, it wasn't. It was daytime when he left, and it was nighttime when he arrived.
I saw that on YouTube or somewhere or something. Yeah, and I was like, wow, he drove a long way. That must have been all the way across the country, Saudi Arabia. I caught that on a clip online. I haven't seen the show. I caught just part on while it was live. Maybe I think I caught the finish of Seth and Drew. And like I said, I've seen some clips here and there of the Logan Paul thing and of EO and a few other pieces along the way. And I certainly know the results. So overall thoughts as beyond Logan Paul being a draw for you at this point?
Yeah, so again, LA Knight didn't lose in a way where he's done. You can still be someone. He can still be someone that WWE builds around. I do love, and I was really intentional in hearing this. Roman Reigns is now third on the list for the longest world title reign ever. he's behind. I want to say it's San Martino and then Hogan. I think Hogan has like 1,400 days. San Martino has, I think, 1,200, if I'm not mistaken. Clearly, they're going to get Roman to the point of, I believe, past Hogan without a doubt. So that's another 300-day reign, which is almost another year from now. Which, again, that's maybe it's a red herring. Maybe it's not. I don't know. That's going to be crazy. Crazy to think that Roman Reigns is still your whatever that title is called, the undisputed Universal Heavyweight World Dominant Tribal Chief Champion of the world. And all the Samoan Islands. If he's still in that spot a year from now, how they continue to give valuable, valid challengers who people believe have a legit shot. Like again, and LA Knight was one of those people, and the crowd was behind him. I was surprised in terms of the venue. It's a smaller venue. It's not the venue they've used in years past, which really surprises me. It actually took away from the event for me. So I don't know, just because I'm anticipating it to be a bigger deal when they go to Saudi Arabia.
Right. Yeah, that I caught things online about that. I hadn't realized it wasn't going to be the larger venue. They probably said that. I mean, well, they wouldn't have said it's going to be a smaller venue. I'm sure they named the venue, in the past when they were talking about it. I've never paid attention, I guess, to what the venue name was. So Roman is actually fourth currently on the list, behind Bruno at in his second reign, 1,237 days. Hogan 1,474, according to the current Wikipedia list. And I don't know when this date was updated, but 1,164 plus. Going for Roman Reigns right now. But the number one overall, and he ain't getting there, is Bruno in his first reign, 2,803 days.
Oh, and see, they didn't even mention that, which
they tend to not mention that one, which is crazy because I'm like, it's your title, guys. Because Roman's not getting to that. I mean, he's not staying 1,700 more days as champion.
Right.
That's 5 plus almost 6 more years.
Yeah, I want to say Roman was at 1161 last Saturday.
Okay,
so he's surpassed 64 by now.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're looking at another 300 and some days until you get past Hogan. So you're past WrestleMania, which I think many people think, and I can go either way. Like, part of me thinks, that they want to get him past Hogan, which means you got to keep the belt on him past Mania. And part of me thinks he's like, if he doesn't lose it to Cody at Mania this year, then I think you've killed off that story with Cody. Like,
I don't know that Cody is the one that ends up defeating Roman. Maybe Cody ends up defeating Seth, and Cody goes, well, this is just one chapter, but it's not the end of the story, right? And they continue to build that because I think I also heard, like, in the commentary, Michael Cole was very intentional when he defeated Damian Priest of going, it's one more chapter in his story. And where does this story go? He articulated it really well. I'm not doing it justice, but Michael Cole really spoke to that well, just in terms of like wanting fans or maybe supporting fans getting behind Cody Rhodes and whatever comes next.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and we're headed into that fun time of the year, and Cody's getting to be in War Games coming up at Survivor Series, so good for Cody.
So Roman beats The Rock at WrestleMania and then Hogan at SummerSlam next year to validate his title reign, and then next year at Survivor Series he loses to Cody. I don't know.
Unfortunately, Bruno's not with us anymore, so he can't beat Bruno.
Is David around? I'm just kidding.
Oh, somewhere, probably. They bring him out and call him Bruno Jr. Oh boy. Vince is not in charge of creative anymore, so I think we can put to rest any fears of that happening. But I didn't see Crown Jewel, as I said, but it looked like and sounded like it was a good card. Nothing, the biggest news probably out of it was the Kairi Sane return. The clip seemed like the crowd didn't really react very big to that, but then again, Kairi Sane was a featured player in WWE, but she wasn't, it's not like Becky Lynch came back or Charlotte Flair came back, or, what I mean? And I don't say that to negate anything Kairi Sane has done. And I think she's certainly done a nice job of building her resume while she's been gone. I'm excited for Kairi Sane to be back, and to see her in the ring again.
Do you remember why she left? Was it just contract and she missed home? Was she one of the cuts? I didn't recall.
Yeah, it wasn't a cut. It was a contract expiring.
Okay.
And it seemed like, she just wanted to try some other things and maybe go home. So, seems like she's back in, she is back in the fold now and has been signed for months. Another one of those kind of like Carlito where they signed him back, but the merger kind of held up some things. So I'm excited to see Kairi. I'm excited to see where that leads. With Kairi and Io, they were a heck of a team, in the past. If Kairi and Asuka became a team or something like that, because Io is the champ, that could inject a little bit into the fledgling women's tag division. Fledgling might be giving it a whole lot of credit, that they just can't seem to get behind. Honestly, I think they should. And I'm thinking out loud here. I haven't given this a ton of thought, but I think NXT books women better than any company right now in mainstream USA. I want to leave Stardom and things like that to the side because A, I don't watch them, so I can't speak to them very well. And B, that's what they do is women's wrestling. So I would hope they do it really, really well. That's the thing they do. But as far as mainstream US wrestling, NXT, I feel like does a really good job with women's wrestling. They have women doing, it's not just the title challenger of the month thing. It's, they have women doing other things. There are other storylines happening with women. And so that's all, I think that would, so I don't know, feature the tag titles on NXT more or something and let Sean do something with that to maybe build it up a little bit. And I realize then you move it over to the main roster, and if Triple H doesn't keep that going, and I like a lot of what Triple H does booking wise, but the women's tag division is just something he hasn't gotten behind either, honestly. And I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's there. So I don't know. Kairi could be involved in a team, since she's apparently going to be in some sort of a stable, it sounds like. And then of course you could have, depending on when Dakota Kai is ready to come back, if Dakota stays with Bayley, that could be another team as well. But I don't know where she's at in her recovery from that ACL. So that might be a little further off too for her. So interesting to see where that goes. I don't think there was any, Solo Sikoa just murdering John Cena from the sounds of it, is interesting. And what you and I both said we would do if we were booking it. So kudos to Triple H and kudos to John Cena. Cause I heard the comment this week on Fightful, and they're 100% right. Sean Ross Sapp was 100% right. Cena was so giving in this run. I mean, he put Austin Theory over at Mania. He put Solo over here. And John Cena is one of those guys who, if he said, you know what, I'm going over in this one, he's got that cachet. He could do that. And he didn't. He helped put over young guys. Now in Austin Theory's case, I don't know that it quite did what they had hoped. But I don't think that's on John Cena. I think that's on the follow-up booking of Austin Theory. But kudos to Cena, because I think he did some really good stuff to help try and put over the next generation of talent in WWE. So, Cena's run obviously is done. I hadn't seen the surgery thing, but with the Screen Actors Guild strike apparently being resolved now, he's got to get back to work and go film Peacemaker and I'm sure 10 or 12 other projects that he's got lined up. So we'll see him back in WWE at some point, for short runs here and there in between things. But certainly one of the top draws of all time. I mean, or top stars of all time. I don't know where money lands on that, but dude sold a lot of merch. No question about that. John Cena still sells a lot of merch.
Yeah. And so it was interesting because during Crown Jewel, they were running ads for Survivor Series, and they were really clear that War Games was part of Survivor Series. So that really was interesting that it preceded what we ended up hearing and finding out on Monday Night Raw, which was that the Survivor Series War Games match, and again, maybe it's one, maybe it's more, is the Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes stable alongside Sami Zayn and Jey Uso against the Judgment Day. And so that's super interesting to me. And in those vignettes and those like bumpers, they were talking about how it's 5-on-5. Like there's an audio snippet of this is 5-on-5 combat or something to that effect, and you've got 4-on-4. So will we get a fifth individual added to each group between now and Survivor Series, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow, which is unbelievable.
I think we do. If we do, who do you see as the fifth on each side?
I have no idea. I want to say Drew McIntyre on the Judgment Day side, based on what happened at Crown Jewel with Seth Rollins, and based on there was a Rhea Ripley and Drew McIntyre interaction backstage.
Yeah, and they've been having over the last number of months.
Yeah. So there's that. I mean, I want to say Kevin Owens for the other side just because of his relationship with Sami Zayn, but we'll see.
I think you may hear voices in your head for that other side.
That'd be cool.
I think it's Randy Orton time. A lot of rumblings about him, being ready and coming back, and that would be and Cody having a past with Randy. There's a storyline reason you could do that too in there, and I have to think, does Randy have any history with Finn Balor? Nothing massive that's coming to mind, but certainly nothing with Damian Priest. But
well, on the other end of that RK Bro, which we didn't talk about RK Bro, but you brought up Randy Orton, so I have to share this because I can't unsee what I saw on X yesterday. I was scrolling and I followed. I still am. I need to unfollow after this because I'm scarred for life. I was following Matt Riddle, and apparently Matt Riddle, while his 90 days is going on, he has an OnlyFans, and they are not photos I care to see of Matt Riddle in a thong. So, yeah. So,
part of me was thinking that you'd go to X and see, and now you've described it, and yeah, I'm good.
No. I'm sure there's probably a great primarily female population, but I'm sure there's a male population who are very much into that. Matt Riddle was very clear about that. It was a thirst trap. And again, I was sorry that I scrolled across that.
I don't believe I follow Riddle, and I'm certainly not going to go double check now.
Let me go search X for Matt Riddle. No, thank you.
All right. Well, and I did see that he and his girlfriend are expecting a baby. So congrats to them. That's exciting for them. And since we're on baby, congrats to Carmella and Corey Graves, who welcomed their first child into the world day before yesterday, something like that. And I have to say, so there's a group on Facebook, I think it's called WWE Old School Fans or something like that, that I happen to follow, and they posted the announcement of Carmella and Corey having their child, and it said Carmella officially becomes a mother. And I'm like, what? And I just commented on it. And I said, what a weird way to word that. Like, not Carmella and Corey Graves welcome their child. Carmella has her baby. Like, there's Carmella officially becomes a mother. Like,
it's not official till the baby comes out.
Right. I'm like, because, without going down a deep rabbit hole that I don't care to go down, 2 years ago, my wife and I were expecting for a very short time. Unfortunately, we lost that. And I don't consider that we conceived a child. We did not get to hold that child. We did not get to know that child, all of those things. And in this case, if God forbid something would have happened, like Carmella was like 9 months pregnant, right? At that point when she, quote, officially became a mother, like just a weird way. I was like, one of your copywriters needs some work, guys.
I'm going to argue as well, too, like that. I'm pretty sure Corey Graves has kids from his previous marriage, and Carmella probably has been serving as a matriarchal figure in that role. So
I believe you are correct. And so, right, even if this is her first biological child, which I believe it is, yeah, just weird. Like when I read it, I was just like, who writes that headline? And then who posts it and doesn't go, hey, can we rewrite that? That seems weird. So be better, guys. That's all I'm saying. Be better. It's not hard. Any other Crown Jewel or WWE centric thoughts? Well, certainly in a couple of weeks, although let's see, it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving is Survivor Series. So we may not record that week on Black Friday. I think we've talked about that might be tough. So that might be a Twitter post of our picks for those. But certainly next week we may talk about the build again, even while we're making Full Gear picks. Although who knows, we may not have time to, because Tony usually puts 19 matches on every pay-per-view card, so we may have.
We're at 7 for sure right now.
Or it's okay. Let me just click on. I have our fantasy wrestling league up, so let me.
Yeah, the 7th match isn't there, but having finished Dynamite yesterday, it was the match I thought we were going to get, and it's interesting that.
And what is that match? Just you're not spoiling anything.
It is the Golden Jets of Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho versus the Young Bucks with a dual stipulation.
Yep, I did see that.
Yeah, the Young Bucks kind of Money in the Bank shot is on the line, and the Winnipeg Jets, the Golden Jets, ability to team in the future is also on the line.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we are at 7, and we could probably fantasy book out a few more matches that they'll be putting together. I'd have to stop and think about what look at what is booked and think about other stars. But let's talk about Full Gear Build and switch over to AEW. I haven't seen Dynamite this week. I've seen enough pictures and things, because if I try to, as much as I'd love to watch Dynamite spoiler free, if I try to do that, it means I'm not going to be on social media from Wednesday until probably Saturday or Sunday some weeks. And while that would probably be good for my mental health and just general well-being, it's also just not part of who I am as a person, because I also use while I use social media for wrestling, I also keep up on my Bears on social media and other things. Cubs, Greg Council, loving that hire. Turn into a baseball podcast here for a minute, but I do feel bad for David Ross. He's a good guy, and but it was the right move for the Cubs. But Full Gear, 7 matches already put together, which is nice, because occasionally both WWE and AEW tend to wait until like the last week to really officially announce things, even though you kind of know where it's headed a lot of times. So it's nice they've got 7 announced already. Maybe they'll finalize something else on Collision, and then they've got next week, obviously, to fill out what will be the lower portion of the card probably, and add in a couple of other 0-hour matches as well. They've got the one they did, I caught last week, they officially said that the ROH tag title match is on 0 hour, MJF versus the Guns. Just to flip over to fantasy wrestling, because we always pull that in here one way or another. You have both of the Guns, I believe. Is that correct?
I do.
I think you might like how that goes. So we'll see.
Well, so let's start there, because on Dynamite, Samoa Joe defends the Ring of Honor television title against Keith Lee, and he before that match, he had become the longest reigning Ring of Honor television champion in the history. Following that match, he says, he's done everything he can do, and he really wants the world title, which is going to be a topic that we'll get to here shortly too. And so he lays down the Ring of Honor title and vacates it. And he continues to now pursue MJF, and he says, I want to team with you. I want to be the Adam Cole fill-in and defend the Ring of Honor tag team titles with you. And MJF continues to rebuff his efforts. So I do think we're going to end up getting somehow, some way. And I don't know. Again, it's a tight window. They have to figure this out in 5 days from today to next Wednesday. That MJF is going to team with Samoa Joe to defend the Ring of Honor tag team titles against the Guns. So maybe that's Joe undercutting MJF, which would seem weird, because MJF isn't defending against Joe that night. He's defending against Jay White. But you would think Joe would say, I want to help you keep these Ring of Honor titles, but in doing so, you have to give me a guaranteed title shot. So maybe the Guns don't win because Samoa Joe comes in. So again, that's going to be interesting to see if that materializes in the next week and how that influences picks. Because I was with you with what you were outlining there. I was definitely thinking all the Guns are definitely Ring of Honor tag team champions when we record on post Full Gear. So
yeah, that's a good point. You just laid it out in a way that makes a lot of sense. And going to be interesting to see. And Adam Cole is trying to encourage, and you may have just said that, MJF to accept that help, I know, and MJF's being stubborn because he's MJF. But Adam Cole, let's talk about Adam Cole for a minute. Still injured. They're doing the video chat thing most weeks, which is, fun, interesting, and Roddy, of course, coming in doing his Adam. yells and
Yeah, I'm over that. By the way, but it was fine. It served its purpose. I'm done. You just stop. You can just stop. Nails on the chalkboard.
Partially because I don't feel like it's gone anywhere now. Like it's kind of the same thing every week. Like, for a number of weeks it was Adam, I need you, and he was doing all the chores around the house, which apparently Matt Taven and Mike Bennett aren't able to do because they were just eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or something. I don't know, holding on to their giraffe. But yeah, I'm partially because Roddy, Taven, Bennett are all they can do the goofy stuff, and that's fine. But they're all really good wrestlers too. So let's make sure we keep highlighting that piece too. And I know Roddy said, and I saw at the beginning of Dynamite, I've watched just the very early part of Dynamite, that tonight, he was going to remind everybody just who the hell he is or whatever. And I don't know if he does that or not because I haven't seen it. But and I am done with I think they're trying to pay a little homage to almost the Cowboy Bob Orton cast thing with his neck brace, and then he jumped up on a Collision or Dynamite last week and hit a running knee quick, and then fell down quick, and they had to get him in the wheelchair to push him back to the thing. Okay, fine. Like, let's move on. And I still think, and I don't know where you land on this, Tom. I'm still staying with my initial prediction that Adam Cole is under the devil mask. He may not be the one standing under the devil mask every time you see him, although he could right now, because like you said, we haven't seen the devil actually in the arena in quite some time. It's always been by video, the kind of scramble, and then you see the devil face and then the scramble back. And so obviously that's anywhere.
Yeah, sorry. I think you have to go back to when Jay White was attacked, and when the attack was happening, and then you pulled back, and then the man in the devil mask was there. Every other time since that, it's been we go to the scramble screen, and then there's the image of him, and then it scrambles again. So that's really interesting. So is this group potentially Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and the Kingdom, or do you think there's different people there? And go ahead.
I think it's Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and the Kingdom. Although the original attack, and I know there's a new attack this week, so I'd have to count people and all that. There were 4 other people besides the devil. Now they could always walk it back and only have the 4 of them if they need to or whatever. I mean, continuity in pro wrestling, right? Like it's if there were 5 originally and then there were 4 when they reveal them. I mean, Retribution had like 27 members before they revealed the 5 or whatever that were actually in the thing. Yeah, I just brought up Retribution. I'm sorry.
It wouldn't be 2 Spot Monkeys without a Retribution callback.
Right, for a while, that was kind of the running thing. So I think it's Adam Cole under the devil, and I think it's the Kingdom and Roderick or Neck Strong, as they're calling themselves. And I think that 5th one, if he's healthy, Kyle O'Reilly would make a ton of sense. I know there was a lot of question around his health, though, because he had neck fusion surgery and all of that. So if it's not Kyle, I think that it's very interesting to see who could that 5th person be. I've seen some people. So there was a Doja Cat video that came out last week with AEW, and Britt Baker, when there's a line about she's the devil or something, Britt Baker does the horns, and they kind of linger on her for a second. Like, well, is she the devil? And it's Adam Cole, Roderick, and the Kingdom that are the 4 that were attacking, and Britt Baker is the devil. I wouldn't like that. I guess I wouldn't, I don't know that they've shown enough of the devils from the neck down, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but that you would be able to tell male or female or that sort of thing. So I guess it could be that, but I think your devil has to be your leader of this group or this whatever. And I just don't know that I would do that with Britt. Britt could be involved in the group. She could end up joining them or something like that. I'm fine with that. It would make a ton of sense because of Adam Cole and Britt Baker's relationship. But I don't think they were giving us anything there. In fact, I think they might have been giving us a red herring just to, make people have that conversation, actually. And if that was it, kudos.
Yeah, and if that was the direction it went, so one thing that I think you have to be mindful of is if she's the leader, she's clearly not going to be opposing in the ring, right, MJF or anybody else that would come to his aid. So that creates a little bit of a gap there. And then it also perhaps moves her out of, again, unless you're moving her out of an in-ring role and putting her in a stable manager role, which again, she's young enough where I don't think you need to protect her body like in that way, but maybe that's a path to go. Again, I don't know. Here's the interesting thing, and I know you didn't see the ending, but the three masked men attack the Acclaimed.
Is it only 3 this time?
And it's only 3. Yep. And MJF is in the ring, and he had chased the Bullet Club out of the ring, and then this happens, and he then runs to the back. But when he runs to the back, he like is visibly frustrated and upset that it happened, but he doesn't attend to any of the Acclaimed members. Like, are you okay? Like, it's just him visibly angry in the scene. So, like, again, maybe that's a red herring too, because if he ends up being the devil, here's a great example of it was me all the time. You know, I didn't come. I feigned concern for you, but I really wasn't concerned for you.
And that could, you know, I mean, it could be MJF, Adam Cole, Broderick, and the Kingdom all working together, because those, I believe, this is only the second attack we've seen. Then from that group, it was Jay White and then the Acclaimed. Does that seem to ring true to you?
I feel like it should be more, but I'll say yes because I don't have proof to the contrary. I don't have a recall to the contrary. So,
and it feels like it should be more. Absolutely, this thing's been going on long enough. It feels like these guys should be attacking people almost every week. Although that could get old too. So maybe it's good they've spaced them out. So that could be. In a little bit of a way, I feel like I'd be almost disappointed if it's MJF. But yet I could see it making storyline, you know.
Is any of that connected to any of that connected to how well he's done as a babyface?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. And he has. He's been, and I love that he really hasn't, he's changed a little bit. But yet a lot of what he's done, he hasn't changed. They're just cheering him for it. It's kind of like, you know, it's almost a little Stone Cold Steve Austin-ish. Like, Stone Cold didn't change his character basically at all. He kind of changed who he was wrestling. You know, he wrestled the heels instead of the baby faces. But people just kept cheering him. Like, it didn't change what he was doing. MJF's changed a little bit in that, you know, he says he's trying to do the right thing and, you know, all of those kinds of things. But he keeps saying, I'm still a scumbag and I'm your scumbag and, you know, all of those things. And he'll do a dirty trick in a match and the crowd pops for it, loves it. You know, I mean, so it could be. That's an interesting way to look at it. And yeah, here's the thing. They got us talking. I mean, that's cool.
And the big question is, will this get paid off a week from Saturday at Full Gear, or does it continue? So we can talk more about that next week. More of the build for Full Gear. So the other matches that are currently announced are Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland 2, which has had some really good build. Swerve broke into Page's house a few weeks ago. Page got a small modicum of retribution this week. He had the dead eye off of the ramp through a table in what looked to be really, really rough. And then he just was like visibly so furious at Swerve. That's going to be good. It was good the first time. It'll be equally good, if not better, this go round. You've got the international title match, Cassidy versus Moxley, and the story of Moxley never lost the title that he defeated Cassidy for back to Cassidy. Cassidy got it by way of Ray Phoenix, by way of John Moxley because of the concussion. And now Moxley is like, I'm coming for you and I'm coming for the title. And Cassidy's like, I got to beat you. So I like the athletic interplay, the rivalry interplay going on there. You got the women's world title, Shida versus Timeless Toni Storm. They had a fun backstage thing on Dynamite this past week. And 6-man, which you get a kind of we're testing the chemistry here on Collision on Saturday with Sting, Darby, and Copeland against Lance Archer and the Righteous before they go and face Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. And then, of course, we got our main event, MJF against Jay White, which we've talked about before. Of those, and then the aforementioned Golden Jets versus Young Bucks. Of those 7 matches right now, what's the match that you're most looking forward to?
That's a really good question. I would say it's probably the Orange Cassidy John Moxley match. Because they're both, you know, top AEW acts. You know, the interesting backstory now of knowing that from the backstage side that Mox was never supposed to lose that international title when he lost it to Phoenix. And then Phoenix was supposed to lose it back to Mox, and then Mox couldn't, didn't get cleared that time too. So then they put Orange Cassidy in because Phoenix is dealing with some visa stuff, it sounds like. So they had to get the belt back off of Phoenix. So knowing all of that backstage stuff, it's like, okay, so is this the spot where they just flip it back to Moxley and get back on the road of whatever they were doing? And that would make a lot of sense. And then you also have the story of Orange Cassidy feels like he has to beat Mox. And so do you have Orange lose that match? Which you could, and then that becomes a, journey for him to get back to Moxley and finally beat him or something like that. So I think that one interests me the most. There's a lot on here that does. I will say the Copeland Sting Darby thing I'm fine with. I wish they would not be feeding Lance Archer and the Righteous to them this week, because you just revealed last week that Jake Roberts is with the Righteous now, or the Righteous is with Jake Roberts. And I like that pairing, but now you're feeding them to the Wolves because they're taking an L their first time out as a trio. Let's be honest. I mean, they're taking an L on Saturday night. They're not winning that match. I suppose there's a very outside chance that Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne interfere somehow, and they end up, Archer pins Darby or something, because Darby's the only one that's getting pinned in that. Adam Copeland ain't getting pinned on Saturday night. Sting ain't getting pinned. So if it happened, it would be Darby. But I put that at like a 0.0002 chance or something. I mean, so that's my only thing. I kind of wish they wouldn't do that, but that's a different story. That's not this storyline. I understand, but yeah, Orange and Mox. What are you looking most forward to?
So I've been trying to look at this, and I was just doing this kind of in real time now. It's like, am I excited for the match? Am I excited for the story, or am I excited for both? Right, and there's only, I think, one match on here where I'm excited for the story more than the match, and that's the 6-man. Just because I'm not sure how they're going to pull that together. And maybe that's me throwing shade on Sting to an extent. I was thinking about this because Sting and Darby had a tag match on Wednesday, and I'm thinking, okay, he's likely going to be in a singles match come March of next year, February or March. He's got to really do something to be more nimble. He better start doing some yoga if he's not already doing it, so that way he can be really like spry for that match. So there's that. For story, and also for story, it's Tony Storm and Cheetah. Now, do I think they're going to have a fantastic match? Absolutely. But I think I'm more interested in the story because of the character that Tony Storm has evolved into here. Beyond that, it's match.
I know we're going to make our picks next week, but Tony's winning that belt.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And for every other match that's on paper, it's match and story combined. So I'm going to go with the Golden Jets versus Young Bucks because I kind of foreshadowed that I thought that was where we were going to go. And when they formalized it on Wednesday, the interplay and like the attitude of the Young Bucks is trending heelish, but then the way that both Jericho and Omega responded also was matter of fact, but also not like babyface. And Jericho had a great line because the Bucks were like angry that Jericho's in their locker room now, right? So the Bucks and Kenny get the locker room because they're the elite. Well, they were mad because Jericho was now in it, so they didn't have space. They were in a broom closet. And Jericho's like parting line when he says all of what he says to the Bucks, he goes, "And I have my own locker room, guys," or something to that effect. So it's a real nice dig at them.
Yeah, I think that one's gonna be fun. I was just gonna look. I'm trying to think when the last time Omega and the Bucks were on opposite sides of a match were, and I mean
probably with Omega and Page.
Probably that would make sense. Yeah, actually, I'm just scrolling through, and that looks like Revolution 2020. Adam Page and Kenny Omega against the Young Bucks looks to be, unless I'm skipping past something else, just I'm doing a really fast skim. So 3 years since they've been on opposite sides of a match, almost 4 actually, 3.5, something like that. So that'll be fun as well. Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see how they flesh out the rest of the card. I know Tony Khan is going to address. He's going to have a major announcement next week and address on Ring of Honor TV the television title. I don't expect that's going to do anything with Full Gear. I expect that'll be with Final Battle. There'll be a tournament or something, that culminates a Final Battle. which would make a lot of sense. There's no reason to dump that on Full Gear. You might have I suppose on 0 Hour, they might have one of the tournament matches or something if they're doing a tournament, which would make sense. I suppose you could put that on 0 Hour. Again, the more that they can separate Ring of Honor and AEW, I think the better. We've talked about that ad nauseum, so I don't want to beat that horse any more than we have to. But yeah, and I'd have to really look at the roster to think about what else they've been kind of pushing that doesn't have a match yet. Your TNT title is obviously tied up in the 6-man, so you don't have a TNT title match. Your trios champs, I suppose, could be doing something. The Acclaim could be doing something. I'm just trying to think of titles really quick off the top of my head. Any titles I'm missing? AEW titles, not Ring of Honor, because of course you can always throw Eddie Kingston in there to defend, all of his belts.
The tag belts, Ricky Starks and Big Bill.
Yes. I forget they're the tag champs. I don't know if that's good or not. I think it's probably not good that I'm forgetting they're the tag champs. And maybe that's because, and again, I'd have to go back and look, and this is just so the feeling I have is like they've been kind of Collision specific almost.
Yes.
And while Punk was there, I know that was, there was there were certain guys that worked mostly either Wednesday or Saturday. But the conversation was once Punk was gone that, that's not a thing anymore. But in Ricky Starks and Bill's case, and a few other folks, it does seem like they're kind of one or the other more. So when your tag titles stay on just one show most of the time, that's a little weird. Although they were kind of that way when FTR had them because FTR was part of the Punk crew and whatever. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the tag belts go for Full Gear. They should have a match. It'd be a shame if they don't. And we have a comment that came in. Oh, Statlander. Yes, TBS title. Thank you, Annette. Yeah, Statlander doing something obviously would make a lot of sense here, too. And there's story.
There's a big match next Wednesday. It's like some crazy, video game driven cross promotion street fight, which is cool. It's Jericho, Omega, Kota Ibushi, the underwhelming Kota Ibushi, and Paul White against the Don Callis family, which is Hobbs, Takeshita,
Kyle Fletcher.
And I'm gonna guess the fourth person is Sammy, but they haven't named him or shown him yet. Which is
last week when they were talking about the match last week, Excalibur said, and of course the fourth member of the Don Callis family, Sammy Guevara, is out with an injury right now. But he didn't say, and he'll be back for that match. So he at least name dropped him. I depending on what his injury status is, I would expect him to be the fourth, although you could debut a new member too if you had to.
Yeah, and then the question becomes, because Jericho and Omega are already tied up at the pay-per-view, what happens in that match Wednesday, and then does it lead into something between Don Callis family and somebody else on Saturday? I mean, if Kota Ibushi is in California already, which is where Dynamite is Wednesday, why isn't he not available Saturday? Kota Ibushi versus Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita,
or Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita against Kota Ibushi in the Big Show.
No thanks.
Right. Well, and especially, and I wonder if they're nervous. This could be a whole other conversation. I wonder if they're nervous about putting Kota in a singles match right now, just because he hasn't been Kota Ibushi. He's been fine. He's had moments, but it's just not what it once was. And whether that's injury, whether that's desire, whether that's physical, just body breaking down. I mean, he's worked a very, very physical style his career. I don't know. But all sorts of, I do think it's interesting that you have Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega, the Golden
Lovers.
Thank you. I was like, why can I not come up with the second word? The Golden Lovers and Jericho. If you would have told me those two teams would ever team up, that wasn't on my bingo card at any point here in 2023. So, I think it'll be a fun plunder match. If you're going to use Paul White in the ring, some sort of multi-man plunder thing like this is probably the way to do it.
And you got to use him to continue to build Powerhouse Hobbs, without a doubt. Like, there's got to be something.
Powerhouse Hobbs doesn't body slam him or power slam him or military press him or something.
Yeah.
Then why is he there?
Yep.
I mean, really, yeah, Hobbs has to come out looking like, oh my goodness, he took out a giant. Whether that leads to the pinfall or not, or it's just he negates Paul White by, putting him through a table or something like that, or piling 10 tables on top of him or whatever. Yeah, I agree. Hobbs is the one who has to negate Paul White in that match. So, really quickly, because I know we're right up against our time here, we've jokingly said, we're going to talk about MJF versus the world. Who is the challenger you're most looking forward to seeing him face, since he's got all these different people? I mean, he had the match with Daniel Garcia on Wednesday. Obviously, Samoa Joe is looking for a shot. Jay White has his shot at Full Gear. Wardlow has said he's coming for him. I'm probably forgetting somebody else along the way.
Those are the main names right now, without a doubt. And so, like, for me, it's Jay White. I don't have a desire to see a Samoa Joe MJF match again. I thought what they did back at Grand Slam was fine, and it was enough for me. Why Tony Khan thinks there's something more to this story, or more in the ring between the two, is surprising to me. Again, you know how I feel about Wardlow. I thought, like, the spirit of Wardlow left in June of 2022. The minute that MJF cut that promo in LA, Wardlow has never been the same, and Wardlow needs to change the scenery in the worst possible way, and that change scenery is not Ring of Honor, it's WWE or somewhere else.
Right.
He needs to just go. And it's sad because he was rising, he was meteoric, and he just has flatlined. So for me, it's Jay White, and that's interesting because I have to imagine that World's End in Long Island, there's going to be a big deal for MJF. So is that a multi-man match, perhaps? Right? Is there something that happens with Jay White next weekend where it's indecisive, and then you have MJF, Jay White, Samoa Joe, and Wardlow in a four-way, which is about, like, it makes me think of Sesame Street. Which one of these things is not like the other?
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know what else they do.
Right. No, I agree. And unless it's Adam Cole, we'll sneeze there. Adam Cole revealed as the devil, and he's ready to go, and it's not, MJF's not involved in that in any way. They're against MJF. You go back to Adam Cole and MJF at World's End. That could make some sense. Yeah. For me, I'm really looking forward to the Jay White. I'm not going to be able to see Full Gear live. We'll talk more about that next week. I've got a trivia booking, so I don't know if I'm going to see it or not, because I'm like you. Like, am I going to spend $50 when I probably am going to get spoiled? I could try really hard to just stay off of social media, but I'll admit Sunday mornings are hard for me to stay off social media because I'm also looking at, like, football inactives and things like that for fantasy football. So, and that's a me problem, not a them problem, but it is what it is. So, I'm looking forward to the Jay White match. I'm okay with another Joe match, but I don't I'm not salivating for it. They haven't done enough yet to make me go, oh yeah, I got to see that again. Maybe they can do more of that if he does team with MJF on Saturday. Maybe they'll get me to where I want to see that match more. So, anything else, Tom, before we sign off and get out of here?
No, your statement prompted me to think, to look ahead to see if the theater that I live nearby locally is going to actually be hosting Full Gear again. Interesting that it's on a Saturday night. College football wise, I think what I'll want to be interested in will happen before the show that night, and being that it won't compete with NFL, I think I can make that happen. And again, $25 to go to a theater to watch it, way more convenient, way more cost effective than the alternative. So,
right.
But we'll talk more about that next week for sure.
Sounds good. Well, everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy wrestling, football, or none of the above, whatever it is you enjoy doing this weekend. And we'll be back with our Full Gear picks next week, right back here at Two Spot Monkeys Live.